Chapter 1. Marina stepped into apartment 2B at dusk. The door groaned on its hinges as if pressing. She set her suitcase aside and flicked on the single overhead bulb. Its weak glow revealed bare floors and walls painted a neutral grey, nothing to hint at the wallpaper she'd only glimpsed in the listing photo. The landlord, a thin man with reddened eyes, had shown her around without smiling. "This place is quiet," he said, voice low. "People rarely stay long." He didn't explain why. Now he was gone, and Marina was alone. She unpacked slowly. A stack of writing journals, a camera with a cracked lens, and a small potted fern she'd bought on impulse. Each thud of her bag on the floor sounded unnaturally loud. At the window, she drew the curtains. Streetlights flickered to life, casting long shadows across the room. Alone, she heard what she at first thought was plumbing running, a soft hiss at the baseboard. She knelt, pressed her ear to the cool wood. Nothing. When she straightened, the hiss stopped. A chill ran up her spine. Marina shook her head. "Just nerves," she murmured. Bracing herself, she turned toward the wall, where the listing had shown a patch of ornate wallpaper. She ran her hand across the paint, smooth, featureless, no sign of paper. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jude, checking in. She typed back, "All set, quiet place." Then, hesitating, she added, "Weird plumbing noises." She crossed her arms. If there was one thing she hated, it was unfamiliar creaks. Tomorrow she'd explore. For now, she turned out the lamp and lay on the mattress, willing sleep to come. Outside, the city lulled her into fitful dreams. Chapter 2. Morning sunlight revealed a narrow strip of faded pattern along the baseboard. The paint around it was chipped. Beneath, delicate vines entwined minute birds in flight. Curious, Marina knelt and pried at a loose length of moulding. Behind it lay a rolled paper, wallpaper, old and brittle. On her kitchen table, she unrolled the fragment. Cream background, green vines curling into hidden shapes, the heads of tiny birds, their eyes sharp. A shiver skittered along her arms. She realized the pattern matched the flicker she'd glimpsed in her dream. Her phone rang. Jude's face filled the screen. "How's the hunt?" he asked, joking. Marina held up the fragment. "Found this behind moulding." He grinned. "Proof of secret tunnels?" She laughed, though her throat felt tight. "Something like that." They agreed to meet later. When she hung up, Marina felt the apartment's quiet press in around her. She traced the vines with her fingertip. Where had this paper come from? Who had plastered over it? And why? A distant rumble made her jump. It sounded like machinery humming. She set the fragment aside and went to the closet, closing the door behind her. In the muted day, the apartment felt too large, too empty. Later, when Jude arrived, she led him to the baseboard. He knelt, examined the wallpaper. "This is old. Maybe from the 30s, 40s? She nodded. "And it was covered completely." Jude straightened, brushing dust from his jeans. "I'll dig deeper." As they spoke, Marina couldn't shake the sense that something unseen was listening. Chapter 3. That night, they stayed until the building emptied around them. Marina lit a single lamp. Jude set up his flashlight and camera on a tripod. The fragment lay between them on the desk. "Okay," Jude said. "I'm recording. Let's see if anything happens." Marina crossed her arms. At 3:17 a.m., a low hum vibrated through the floor. It wasn't mechanical, it was organic, like the breath of an animal beneath the wood. Jude's camera whirred. "I got it," he whispered. Marina's heart thumped. The hum built in pitch, then abruptly stopped. There was a click, soft, deliberate, coming from the hatch above the stove. They exchanged a glance. Marina rose and turned the overhead light on. Jude moved to the hatch, hands trembling. He lifted it. Inside was a small cavity, plaster walls scored with a single word scratched into the surface. Seam. Marina braced against the counter. "What does that mean?" Jude shook his head. "Not sure, but whoever wrote this was trapped in here." Marina pressed her palm to the cold edge of the hatch. Beyond it, the apartment felt hollow, as though a heartbeat had stopped. They packed up and left, but neither spoke until they reached the lobby. Outside, the hallway light buzzed and a cold breeze drifted past them, though the door was closed. Marina glanced back once, half expecting to see movement behind the frosted glass of 2B's door. When there was nothing, she exhaled. Still, the word seam burned behind her eyes. Chapter 4. Over the next day, Marina researched building permits and historical records at the public library. The files showed the building erected in 1929, converted to apartments in 1952. No mention of 2B's previous occupants, only blank lines where names should have been. "That's odd," the archivist said, flipping pages. "Usually every tenant registers." Marina's stomach knotted. She scanned back issues of the local newspaper on microfilm. One entry caught her eye. A brief note in 1958 about a tenant who vanished without a trace. Apartment 2B. No follow-up, no explanation. She pulled out her phone to call Jude. Before she could punch in his number, the lights flickered and went out. The library fell silent, save for the hum of the projector in the next room. Marina closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the table was empty. Her notes and phone gone. Only a scrap of yellowed wallpaper lay where her things had been. She bolted to her feet. "Thank you," she whispered to the archivist, even though nobody had helped. She fled into the hallway, heart hammering. The scrap in her hand was a perfect match for the fragment and the listing photo. Thin vines curling around a single bird's head. When the generator roared to life minutes later, Marina was already halfway across town, nursing a coffee and making plans. Chapter 5. That night, Marina returned to 2B with tools, flashlight, crowbar, camera. Jude met her at the door. His face was pale. "I've thought about it," he said. "Maybe we shouldn't." She handed him the scrap. "We know something's here. I can't ignore it." They forced the hatch open and shone their lights inside. The cavity was larger now, as if someone had widened it. At the bottom lay a folded page from the notebook, uneven handwriting scrawled in charcoal. "They live in seams. You can't seal what they slip through." Jude swallowed. "Maybe we leave." Marina shook her head. "Not yet." They fitted the crowbar between floorboards in the center of the room. With effort, they pried one loose. Beneath lay a metal plate fastened with screws. Marina knelt and began unscrewing. Every turn echoed like a knocking finger on a door. When the plate came free, a pitch-black hole yawned before them, at least a foot deep. Cool air hissed upward. Marina shone her flashlight inside. The beam vanished into darkness. Jude's voice was a whisper. "We need a rope." "Tomorrow," Marina said. Her reflection on the beam looked determined. As they resecured the floorboard, a faint humming rose from below, impossible to silence now they'd opened the seam. Chapter 6. They returned with rope and a harness at first light. Marina tied one end, Jude held the other. Heart pounding, she descended into the void. The walls were rough plaster, damp in places. The air smelled of earth and something older. At 6 feet down, her flashlight revealed a narrow corridor, no wider than her shoulders, lined with the same ornate wallpaper. Leaves and birds extended unbroken into darkness. She traced the pattern. Tiny scratches at the joints as if something had struggled free. Below, water pooled at her feet. She shivered, imagining the scratch marks as claws. She pressed forward, the hum growing louder. It vibrated through her bones. Above, Jude called softly. "You okay?" She lifted her hand. "It goes deeper." She stepped waist deep into the water. The beam caught on something ahead, the silhouette of a doorframe, plaster crumbling. She reached it and pressed her ear to the wood. A faint, keening whisper drifted out. "Let me out." Marina's breath caught. "I heard it." Jude's voice was distant. "Pull us up." She hesitated, hand trembling on the frame. The hum swelled into a keening chorus. Then, abruptly, silence. She turned. The corridor behind her was empty. No rope, no hatch, only wallpaper stretching into blackness. Chapter 7. Marina plunged her hand into her pocket. No phone, no scrap of wallpaper. Panic rose. She pounded the door. It didn't budge. From behind came muffled scratching. She pressed her face to the wood, teeth gritted. "Help me!" she screamed. Above, Jude's rope slipped. He shouted. She banged again. The door wavered under her fist. A crack appeared at the bottom, a sliver of light. On hands and knees she scrambled forward. The crack widened. She threw her shoulder against it. It gave way. She tumbled into an empty room, the walls scored with dozens of holes, like eyes, watching. She scrambled for the rope and grabbed it, relief so fierce it made her dizzy. She flung it up. Jude caught it. Together they climbed. When her feet hit the floor of 2B again, dawn was breaking. The room was silent, no hum, no whisper, only the wood floor beneath her boots and the soft glow of sunrise. Chapter 8. They sealed the hatch and nailed the floorboard in place. Then they stripped the fragment and scraps of wallpaper, crumpled them and burned them in the sink. The smoke curled up, black as ink, and the smell lingered between them. Marina leant against the counter. "Are you okay?" Jude nodded, eyes distant. "I'll help you move out." She shook her head. "I need to know what was down there. I can't just leave it." He sighed. "Then let's document it properly." Over the next days, they collected records, old photographs, anything that mentioned 2B. They interviewed neighbours. Everyone remembered odd events, lights flickering, unexplained noises, but nobody admitted fear. Late one evening, Marina spread her research across the living room. At 3:17, the lights dimmed. She didn't flinch. The hum rose low and steady. She reached for her camera and began filming. Chapter 9. The basement beneath 2B turned out to be a forgotten storage level for the original owners. They discovered faded signage, Wallace and Strand parcel storage. Behind a false wall, an archive room remained, dust-choked but intact. Shelves held ledgers, tenant applications, and maintenance logs. One ledger listed tenants by name, every entry crossed out. At the bottom, a single note scrawled in charcoal. They claimed the seams, then they disappeared. Marina read, heart pounding. Seams claimed them. Jude snapped photos. What does that mean? From behind them, a soft click made them whirl around. A metal cabinet door swung open on its own. Inside lay a stack of wallpaper samples, identical to what they'd ripped out. Marina backed away. It's endless. She realized then the building itself had become a seam, layers upon layers, impossible to close.
Chapter 10.
Marina and Jude surfaced into twilight. They locked the basement door. Neighbours watched from windows but said nothing. 2B stood between them, once more sealed. Marina turned to Jude. "We can't stop it," she whispered. He shook his head. "Maybe we document it, warn others." She swallowed. "Or just leave it buried." They walked away, the hum fading behind them. In her pocket was the recording, humming, whispers, the scrape of claws. She hesitated, then deleted the file. "Gone," she said. Jude closed his eyes. "Are you sure?" Marina nodded, voice steady. "Let's go home." As they left, the door to 2B's stairwell clicked shut. Inside, unseen vines of wallpaper pressed outward, tiny bird heads turning toward the darkness. And somewhere, beneath floor and plaster, the seams whispered for something more.